Well, at that time, one club became home to some of the best-loved music and fashion of the decade. Cary Grant looks at the Midlands Mecca for the New Romantics.
Birmingham. Even after its radical facelift, it's not a city you immediately associate with glitz and glamour.
At the dawn of the 1980s, there was one nightclub in Birmingham that gave birth to a movement. Extravagance and theatricality were at its heart. Eyeliner, lip gloss and hairspray were its uniform. And that was just the boys.
The club was the Rum Runner and the movement, the New Romantics. In 1978, Paul Barrow and his brother Michael set about recreating the glamour of New York disco.
It was pretty run down, it was only open 2 nights a week, and we had a vision for it, and we got stuck into the club and pulled it all apart and painted it all matte black and put mirror everywhere and palm fronds. Off we went.
But surely here in the UK, we were really into punk at that time too.
Yeah, the club opposite the Rum Runner was in fact the leading punk club in the north. A more extreme juxtaposition you couldn't find.
The girls from the punk club flocked to the Rum Runner and the boys obviously followed. But to fit in, they had to dress up. Mike Horseman was a music promoter right at the heart of the New Romantic scene.
This was during the Thatcher years, a lot of unemployment, a very colourful scene, not really reflecting what was going on in the country.
Well, reaction to the austere sort of reality of life in those days, I guess. I think a lot of the people that went there were punks originally, definitely came from the street, it wasn't affected by the media. It was known as the Cult with No Name. Carl and Bell, who were our designers in Birmingham, some of their outfits, which were later copied by a lot of the bands, the ruffled shirts they used to make, boys will be girls and girls will be boys. They all just dressed up just for the lark of it.
What the club needed next was a house band, and it got one, in the shape of Duran Duran.
It was fairly clear that this scene was going to spawn an act that was a true reflection of it, and that's when Duran came along.
The band and the club were as one. When they weren't playing, guitarist Roger Taylor worked as a glass collector, Nick Rhodes as the DJ, and John Taylor was a doorman. The band went from Birmingham backstreet to global superstardom. Simon Le Bon's fondness for yachts was borrowed from club owner Paul Barrow's passion for sailing. Back on dry land, the club was a mecca, with the coolest of the 80s London hipsters trekking up the M6 to Brum. Boy George was a natural for the Rum Runner. Midge Ure of Ultravox and Mark Harmon from Soft Cell also passed the door test. And rival owner Steve Strange checked out the opposition to his London club, Blitz. Richard Whittingham was the Rum Runner DJ, known back then simply as Dick.
You felt like you were doing something different, you were special. We also felt the music was special, you know, different. Although a lot of the music that we were playing early on became predominantly chart music in the end. But at the time, you wouldn't hear it anywhere else. And it was good to get looked at, even if they laughed.
So what were you dressing in back then?
Zoot suits, the odd frilly shirt.
And your winkle pickers?
Of course, yeah, the ones I had to hide. Take them out of the house in a bag and then put them on.
Why?
Because my mother thought they were trouble shoes.
I'd love to have seen the club, but sadly it was demolished in 1987, a victim of what we call progress.